men and women are created equal, but
Welcome to the Trash Cats Trashcast. I'm Richard.
I'm Steven.
And before we go any further today, I need to get ahead of all of the allegations that are being made.
Oh shit!
I want to get it. I want to get the record straight right here and right now. Never once, never have I ever said to enact in any type of political violence. I've never once said, that someone should drive up to, your local Tesla dealer and, make a quote unquote return with a full of, I've never said that. I just want to put that out there. I've never once said, how easy it would be to, post up at if an undisclosed address that is somewhere in the area.
You're pushing it. Oh, I'm just eating my ice cream.
I've never said this. I've never said these things.
You have now.
And I want it to be noted that I've never said these things. I've never advocated for these things and how, potentially easy it could or could not be.
I mean, the reality is that they're putting us in a pretty tricky spot. I mean,
yeah.
It's a pretty tight corner. What the fuck is going on, dude? Shit's fucked.
It's really fucking wild. And, if you think about our many wonderful freedoms that are granted to us in this United States of America, one of the chosen ones. What was that?
As they quickly are being dismantled.
Yeah, well, that too. But the one that, really, should be a given is that we should be able to talk shit about Christians. And it feels like, it's already being motioned to have that taken away from us. And
why? Sorry, I just finished a fucking pint of cookie dough ice cream for
Steven's finally joined the podcast.
Yeah, what's going on, guys? What's wrong with Christians this week? I was just writing our episode on the White House Faith Office, so we got that coming up. What's wrong with Christians this week?
Oh, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying they're doing anything in particular that's not normal. I'm saying that that's out of the ordinary for them, at least. I'm saying that we're losing our rights to be able to talk shit about them.
Are we?
And he's at least going after
all the press stuff. But.
Yeah, he's trying to go after no, you can't. At least on a federal level, you can't go against Christians I don't think anything can't be anti-Christian.
Nothing's happened yet with.
But he's talking about it, and it's just a matter of time. So I'm saying that we should make sure that we exercise our right to do so.
They're officially not following judgments by the judicial system. So we have effectively a unitarian executive. It's like actual constitutional crisis shit right now. It's pretty dire, and it's just going to be interesting. Did you see the Nazis in Cincinnati?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, pretty wild.
Now, if I can get back to my intro that you just stomped all over, we do need to.
You were pushing it.
We should exercise. No, what I was saying is we should exercise our right to talk shit about Christians by going into another Hardman episode.
Oh, true. Yeah, we got an Eric Kahn episode. Here's the real question.
Yeah.
Do you think Christians... This has become like my mantra. I probably say it like 300 sometimes in my head each day. I think all Christians should actually be crucified. Fuck it.
Yeah.
They should be lining the highways, dude. Like fucking the roads to Rome, just Christian corpse, everywhere you go, you know?
You're saying we need to bring the rapture to them.
Absolutely.
You know, I think that's It's what they're calling for. It's what they want. And, they said it would happen. They never said how.
Dude, I write this manifesto thing, and there's this line I wrote that's so funny, dude. It's so funny because it's one of those things where like if somebody read it to you, like seriously, you'd be like, oh, that's crazy. But if you knew how funny I thought it was, it's so dumb. It's like my buddy that wrote that thing, I've never learned a single thing with a smile on my face.
Yeah.
It's like one of those lines where it's like, if you know he's a jackass, it's hilarious.
Yeah.
But yeah, got some stuff brewing up. Eric Kahn's up to his bullshit. I'll just play this one on the microphone for you. I found
I can't wait.
A ladies' Christian podcast.
Oh boy!
If we really want to be equitable, this is special, dude. This is special. It's called Girls Gone Bible instead of Girls Gone Wild, bro. Listen to this.
And my favorite thing about Jesus is that he really is like a double-edged sword. He heals where he cuts. It's like, I don't want to face this. I don't want to talk about it. That's my response, is like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to deal with it. But he cuts you open because he's pulling something out, and then he will bind up the wound, but he has to cut you first. The unlearning of things is probably the hardest.
Yeah. In order to have a healthy relationship, it all starts with you being healthy. And to be healthy starts with relationship with Jesus, and it's really uncomfortable, and you will kick and scream, and you will feel at times like you just want to give up, because the Christian walk is one of the hardest things you will ever do, but it is so worth it.
It's so worth it.
Dude, I think he raped her.
I think so. I think she's justifying something in her
Jesus
head.
Christ.
It's wow, that is crazy.
My comment, this is abuse. He's gonna cut you open with his double-edged sword and sew you back up. What the fuck, dude? Girls Gone Bible, bro. They're out.
That truly is like victim.
It's like abuse.
Yeah. That's exactly the shit of like Stockholm syndrome shit.
Yeah.
That is wild.
You gotta justify believing in shit that hard.
Yeah, it's so hard, and there's times that you don't want to because it's difficult, and it's like, but when you're brainwashed and you don't have to worry about anything because you just push everything off onto nothing's in my control anymore.
Besides, all your energy is going to healing up these stab wounds. Jesus. No wonder you can't think clearly.
These fucking psychic stab wounds.
Yeah, Jesus. All right, Eric Kahn, our favorite hard man. What was this episode? Against complementary. So we skipped 2, right? Because
he has guests on with terrible audio quality.
Yeah, they're on their cell phones going through an infinite tunnel. We skipped the church's response to Rona, which we were looking forward to, and then I think the next one, which I really wanted us to hear, was the introduction to the Red Pill movement.
Yeah, it's like, what is the Red Pill movement?
Now, Eric...
Eric enters the Matrix.
Yeah. Now, Eric, this is when he first is getting guests on his show, so he's finally touching dicks with the other guys, getting some hard men going, but he doesn't have a studio yet, so they're just calling in on phones, and the audio is too garbage to subject our classy audience to, so we're skipping interview episodes with cell phone audio, but we're going to try to stick to chronological as best we can. So the next episode, I think it's number 7 or 8.
Against complementarianism. Which
at first I was like, oh, this is the, don't give people compliments. It's like bad. And then I had to remember we're approaching this through evangelical theology, and the idea of complementarianism is that the opposite gender partner, whatever, they might not be equal, but they should complement you. I think that's where this is headed. I'm not positive.
Yeah, that's right. You were explaining to me this to me over the phone the other day, and we decided that it's like yin and yang, except the yang is much bigger and stronger and better at sports than the yang.
I've heard people, mostly red pill losers, talk about this a little bit, but I haven't heard a Christian broach this topic. So he, keep in mind, he just survived Corona. He just became a red pillar, and now he's going to teach us why we should hate complementarianism.
3, 2, 1.
Boop. You're listening to the Hard Men Podcast, reclaiming biblical masculinity in a world of softness.
Let's go.
Welcome to the Hard Men Podcast. I am your host, Eric Kahn, and today we're going to be taking an introductory look at complementarian theology.
Hell yeah, bro.
We'll look at its central teachings.
Tell us.
We'll look at its origins. Where did it come from, and why did it arise?
Where did you come from? Where did you go? Where did you come from, Cotton Eye Joe?
As well as its authors and the proponents or supporters of that theology today.
Dude, what a fucking idiot, right?
We're also going to take a look at why it's causing a stir and some of its opponents, including egalitarian theology and robust biblical patriarchy. We'll talk a little bit about the differences in those three theologies. We're going to analyze the impact that complementarian theology has had on the church today.
Okay.
And in particular, we'll examine the softening impact that it's had on masculinity in the modern church and the broader culture.
Wouldn't want that.
Now, one thing I want to do by way of introduction is to let you know I was actually converted under John Piper's preaching. John Piper's one of the
Look him up.
main authors and
John
proponents,
Piper.
along with Wayne Grudem, of complementarian theology. And it was because of him that I was introduced to Reformed theology. So I'm deeply appreciative of his ministry.
His website, desiringgod.com.
And at one point, I was a proponent of complementarian theology.
Hard men who desire God.
So while I offer my critique of his theology here, it's worth stating that I am eternally grateful for his ministry of faithful, expository, Reformed, and Calvinistic preaching. Complementarianism was a term coined by John Piper and Wayne Grudem in their book, Recovering Biblical Manhood and Womanhood, a response to evangelical feminism. Now, this book was released in 1991, and I would encourage you to take a look at it. If you don't own a copy, you can also find a free PDF if you go to desiringgod.org.
Oh, good.
Of course, that is John Piper's ministry website, and you can download the PDF there. Now, as the title suggests, the book was a response to several decades of feminist ideology which had invaded the Christian church.
Damn.
John Piper and Wayne Grudem saw that this was a problem, and they wrote this book along with many other contributors in response to that. Now, this feminist theology and ideology was being embraced by evangelicals, and they called themselves, and still do to this day, egalitarians.
I hate when ladies cheapen my faith.
Now, it's important to keep in mind on both sides, whether you're a complementarian or an egalitarian, there's a broad spectrum. Not everyone believes the same points, so I do want to point that out. But Piper and Grudem were seeking to stem the tide of the feminism and the sexual sin in the church by publishing their work, and I believe they wrote it with good intentions for helping the church. Now, some form of complementarianism has been the dominant treatise in Reformedish evangelical circles in America for close to 30 years.
Blah, 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 pause.
Yeah, he just yapping about nothing.
Yeah, 318. So he introduces us to his maybe mentor of sorts, but the guy that converted him to evangelicalism, John Piper, founder and teacher of Desiring God and a chancellor of Bethlehem College and Seminar. For 33 years, he served as a pastor at Bethlehem Baptist Church in Minneapolis. So he was a Baptist. Seems like he was responsible for converting Eric. I'd be too not Baptist, but I'd be so curious what converted Eric. And then, just to cover our bases here, egalitarianism is the belief that all people are equal and should be treated equally. Pretty basic shit. I think those stupid ass bumper stickers with the equal sign, I think that's what those bumper stickers are always yapping about. And then, right? And then complementarianism. I can't type. I'm in a different room, guys. I'm recording. The world
got a new
tried to
keyboard. He's got his whole world's been turned upside down.
Tip
And yet
turned
here we
upside-
are.
in Bel Air, bro. You type.
What am I typing?
Complementarianism. Let's see what
No.
do theology. I just don't want to fucking type, bro.
It's a theological view that men and women have different but complementary roles. It's held by some Christian denominations, Rabbinic Judaism and Islam.
Okay. Everything's snapping into place. Okay, these are the arguments like men and women aren't equal. They're not supposed to be. We have different strengths and weaknesses, and we're meant to complement each other. And they say this is in opposition to everyone being equal. And it's like there are levels to this argument. You know, your base argument could be like, hey, we're equal. We deserve equal respect, rights, all that dumb shit. But on like the second layer, it's like, well, we're all equal under law. The thing I'm writing about in this manifesto is like, under law, we are all equal. Under philosophy, we are not equal animals, right? People do have different strengths and weaknesses, but that doesn't mean you treat people with different levels of, I don't know. This whole thing in Christianity, and it's also mirrored in the red pill shit, is like, the whole time they're saying, hey, we're not equal, but we're just as good in different ways. And the entire time, like you said, it's like, well, but we're the stronger, smarter, better, faster ones that can do everything, and you just raise kids and make our babies. It's like, well, that doesn't sound like a fair balance there, bud.
It's so this is particularly in Christianity. Complementarianism holds that God has created men and women equal in their essential dignity and human personhood, but different and complementary in function, with male headship in the home and in the church. End quote. Many proponents and also opponents of complementarianism see the Bible as the infallible word of God, which is a crazy thing to say about
Christian religion. Right?
Well, it's like about I get it that why they say that in this, but it's a crazy sentence to say about an item, a text that is so widely up to subjection and different translations.
It's a little word of God, bro.
It's infallible.
I'd say every major religion that's not New Age will say that. Now, I will say, if you go to John Piper's website, because he's really the source of all our evils here with Eric, there's a section at the top you can click Give. This will take you to the donation page, and then it says, "Feel more joy in Jesus Christ." Now, I'd like to
giving us money.
Yeah. Now, what I did, just to keep it simple, is I made sure the amount was for $0, and I put in all fake information and said, "Fuck you." Now,
what would be good to try if you put like -$400.
-666. You owe me.
Yeah, -666. You owe me $600.
You owe
$666.
Now, I'm writing an HTML bot, and it's going to repeat spam this page, like with a mouse mover app.
Great. Perfect.
It'll just send these in all day and night to him,
That's a great call, actually.
I thought so. All right, let's see where Eric
It's great use of your time.
That's right. It's hard to imagine that 1991 was almost 30 years ago, but it's true.
Wow, time's really crazy.
Now, let's talk egalitarian theology. At its core, the egalitarian position is that men and women are created equal, and there are no role distinctions between the two sexes. That second part is very important to understand.
I love his unique insights.
Men and women are equal, and there's no role distinction between those two sexes. Mm-hmm. It's the sort of position, anything you can do, I can do better. right? This is the dominant theology and ideology both in the church and in the American culture today.
People like different things. Who the fuck cares, dude?
Yeah.
Now, among other things, egalitarians allow women access to the pulpit
Pulpit?
and to teaching and / authority roles within the church. What they'll also do is say, in the rest of the world, there's no distinction between men and women. Either one can serve in military. Either one can serve in physical, demanding, could kill you type jobs. Doesn't matter.
It's going peak Hegseth on us, huh?
Yeah. Yes.
They can't do as many push-ups. Don't let them in.
Men or women, there's no difference. Now, in response, conservative, Bible-believing men like John Piper and Wayne Grudem, they argued this. Men and women are created equal, but
some are more equal than others.
they have different roles depending on their sex and according to Scripture. So they're both equal before God in worth.
They're equal before God, but not here on earth, is what he's saying.
But they have different roles. This is sort of the central tenet of complementarian theology. One of the main examples that these men use is the Trinity, right? The Trinity, you have three distinct persons in the Trinity. They're all God, right? But there's an economy, and so they do different things.
Shut up!
It's all one person, but they do different things. So you can't blame one for the other one, and that's why your prayers haven't been answered.
It's the Trinity is the stupidest fucking concept.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Trinity's just like an ugly, mutated cancer baby triplet. Like the Siamese triplet. They're like
and one of the conjoined bodies is a ghost.
Yeah. That's Christianity.
It's I was like, kind of kicks ass. That part.
No. Here's something I don't like. There's been a ton of apologia about Christianity. This whole cultural Christianity thing is becoming very popular. Are you seeing this much?
No.
It's all of these secular people and like atheists and the worst of the worst, the centrists that are like, well, it's bad, religion's stupid, Christianity's not real, but I still think I should send our kids to a Catholic school because God might not be real, but I like their Christian values, and I think we should embrace that as Westerners. That type of shit. It's just it's bigger with the Republicans, but it is becoming a thing where it's like, well, Christianity might not be true, but that doesn't mean we can't live like it isn't. And it's like, what the fuck are you talking about? That is like the craziest poser shit.
It's crazy to me, the people who a couple years ago would have said, oh yeah, I don't believe in God, I don't believe in this shit. But they're still like very vocally outward about Trump, about like, oh, but he's going to defend people's religious rights to, whatever, practice all their bullshit. And it's like, he's using it for votes. It's so clearly obvious that, he made a statement about like, oh, he's changed his relationship with God since he's been attempted to be assassinated twice.
What a Weasley lie.
Yeah.
Dude, it's so crazy in retrospect that the protest at the church where he holds the Bible upside down.
Yeah.
For it now to have came out that he told the military to shoot the protesters in the leg.
Yeah.
So he could hold a Bible wrong. Like, it's like so vile
to get his photo up.
It's so vile to wield fake religiosity for photo shoots while threatening violence. It's like, oh man, America's fucked right now, dude.
Yeah.
How doom-pilled are you? Because this White House faith office is like, I can't think of anything more that deserves to be attacked. Like, Doge is up there, but this is like so fundamentally anti-American. Like, it is the poison of our nation. They like to say it's immigrants, but it is the White House faith office. It is Pam Bondi. It is Elon Musk. It's all these fucking losers that preach one thing while they're lying and robbing and stealing and fucking corrupting the shit they're pretending to to uphold.
Oh yeah, we're going to get rid of all the corruption, just shoveling corruption into the government.
Just publishing lies all day. It's just so crazy. And Eric is as guilty as the rest.
Damn right.
In the same way, men and women are equal in worth, but they're different in the roles that they perform. Now, mainly John Piper and Wayne Grudem.
He sounds like a first grader, like figuring out a math problem.
Complementarian theology.
And he's not that much older than us, right? He's a little bit older than us.
I think so. I don't know how old I am.
John Piper and Wayne Grudem both affirm Paul's prohibition against women preaching. That's important to keep in mind.
Super important,
They
bro.
both support the biblical doctrine that exercising authority and teaching roles in the church is reserved for men. They recognize that men were given a leadership role
Let's hear that trumpet.
in some capacity, and that women are to submit, particularly in marriage. And they'll reference Ephesians chapter 5. So again, even as we criticize and critique this view, keep in mind they're trying to be faithful to the biblical witness.
Is this just going to be background music, or is he going to transition?
Complementarian theology
No fucking idea.
is widely embraced by many in the Reformed camp. And there's many different denominations and backgrounds, right? You have Baptists, you have Presbyterians, you have Acts 29ers.
Just a little fader.
Yeah, it's just a fade out. He just wanted to have a little flavor in there. Keep your attention because he's just droning on about bullshit.
Wayne Grudem, Kevin DeYoung, Matt Chandler, J.D. Greer, C.J. Mahaney, and others. Most of those names are associated.
It just sounded like he read a list of goblin names.
I was just going to say, he just read a bunch of names of like the shittiest people.
And George Blook Blook and Gorgor Gongor.
Now, in terms of opponents
that an
of
ad?
complementarian theology, these
No,
are
he's
your
just-
egalitarians. You're going to
just
find
banging it
prominent
out,
names
bro.
like Tim Keller, of course.
Bro,
Beth
what is this?
Moore,
This whole
and
verse is just
perhaps
name
most
listing.
vehemently outspoken of all, Carl Trueman and Amy Bird. Right. What's interesting is that many of these
Not
names
Amy
come from
Bird, though.
Not Amy Bird.
sort of camps, but they're espousing doctrines that are more closely aligned with feminism than with the scripture. Now, they are generally in favor of women either as elders or some of them in preaching roles. Obviously, Beth Moore, she's coming out of the SBC, sort of reformed-ish, but really advocating for women pastors and downplaying the words of Paul because she'll say, well, those are the words of Paul, not the words of Jesus. So again, there's a spectrum here. But those two names, Carl Trueman and
It's just a
Amy
little
Bird,
gossiper, isn't
they've
he?
attacked the position mainly on their podcast, The Mortification of Spin. You can also read their writings in First Things.
He's just
Now, for
plugging
years,
everyone
Bird
else.
and Truman have attacked this
what
complementarian
is
view.
happening
They've gone
right
after
now?
Dr. John
What
Piper.
are you talking
Well, they went after his boy.
And most recently, Amy Bird has written her book, which is called Recovering from Biblical Manhood and Womanhood. Of course, you can tell even in the title, she is responding specifically to Piper and Grudem. They see that this complementarian theology is destructive. They'll blame abuse in the church on this theology.
I feel like I'm having a stroke.
This is not as
Fiery.
it's not as I think he's just kind of like babbling off some shit about what other people.
Where's the brimstone, bro?
Yeah, I mean we got time
arguing
here.
that
He's
women
coming.
should not serve in the military or as police officers.
We got there.
Now, as we examine both positions, both the complementarian and the egalitarian position, it's important to recognize several fundamental truths behind each ideological framework and what the practical outworking of those ideologies are in the real world. So I want to go through those now.
Yeah, fucking get to the point, Eric.
First of all, feminist egalitarianism embraces the Marxist feminist assumption that hierarchies, or simply authority structures, are inherently evil and thus seeks to destroy them. So keep that in mind. Egalitarianism is embracing a Marxist feminist assumption that hierarchies are evil.
I'm keeping it in mind. I'm trying to follow the thread here.
Secular feminism embraces the Marxist concept that hierarchies are simply tools for oppression and therefore must be destroyed. Worst of all, in the feminist mind, is patriarchy, right? This male-dominated authority structure.
Tell us more about what's going on in the feminist mind. Tell us everything you know.
I'm actually thinking he's full of a lot of this is all right. This is we're going back to my fly bottle boy, Wittgenstein.
Okay, yeah.
I feel like so many issues, whether it's philosophy or politics. I'm going to work back around to this answer. I had one of my mandatory monthly phone calls with a social worker because I'm mentally unhinged. Okay, so every once in a while the state checks in on me. Okay, the social worker is talking about radical acceptance. Okay, and I say I don't believe in that. It's a great way to find inner peace and not be at odds with the world. You should try radical acceptance. And I said, no, that's bullshit. And then she went on to describe it, right?
Yeah.
And she describes radical acceptance is not the ignoring of the problem or to acknowledge that what happened was okay or accepting, she lists all these things like this, right?
Yeah.
That initially would be my criticisms, right?
Correct.
And she whittles it down to a definition at the end that's like, okay, this is something I could agree with, right? But when someone asks me, do I embrace the idea of radical acceptance? I'm going to say no, because these are things like two people left and right can be like, oh, I love freedom of speech. And then by the time you whittle it down to exactly what it looks like, they've came to completely different conclusions.
Right.
But on the surface, they both believe the same thing. So this is like the type of thing that, Eric can say, oh, just people have different roles or whatever. But now that he's getting into his reasoning a bit more, it's, well, these radical Marxist leftists with their modern secular feminism. And it's like, well, if we ask him what he thinks that means versus we ask those people what it means, it's going to be completely different answers. And then it's the, they just want the patriarchy so bad, but for us, it's just a structured thing. It's just the natural order according to God's will. These are so much of these conversations are differences of vocabulary. It's definitions. It's exclusionary ideas, right? Like everything he says, I feel like with a neutral connotation or like a balanced understanding, I feel like he's just contradicting himself over and over. Like I don't think what he is spouting about, like he's saying secular feminism is really anti-patriarchy not because they want to be equal, but because they want to be better. He said that type of shit before, where it's like, I don't think that's anyone's definition, or it's a very small subset of people where like you're not giving a balanced argument of what their side would be. And for as much as I fucking hate Eric, I feel like I can steel man his positions and I can understand where he's coming from. It's just all stupid.
Yeah. It's just you can understand his opinion. His opinion just sucks.
Yeah, but I feel like there's this thing where you just load everything like heavy on like what you think the other person's argument is, where I don't feel like he's ever given honest positions of what he is saying someone else believes.
Yeah.
But that's like all religious people.
There's on similar to what he's talking about of like, he starts getting into like the female pastors and stuff like that. Did you see the video I sent you about
the bishop?
It was it was she was
dude, how disgusting of them. How like
it's
honestly
fucking insane.
Fuck that bishop. She did great. Like she
not her. There's a different one I sent you of a woman who she's Lutheran. So she's a reverend, and she she was like in the basement or something. She was like, in my experience, or I've never worked on a boiler before, or, had to fix a boiler before, but I'm just going to use the tools that seminary school taught me. And she's like throwing holy water on it and like reading the Bible to it and shit. And it was like the framing of it was like, okay, this is kind of funny. And then all of the comments were just like a bunch of people that were like, you'll never be a real preacher because you're a woman and shit like this. It was like, no one's like making any light of like, talking about like the actual content of the video. They see a woman that's like doing religious shit and, as like I guess a leader for her group. And that's what they're shutting down. Like that's what they're getting from the content.
I mean,
it was just person after person of it was just insane.
I mean, obviously that's dumb, shitty behavior, right? But also, you know what? I feel like that's exactly what that person deserves. Like,
it's like I don't feel like like that's the shitty part is like now I feel like I want to defend this person's right to just be a person on the internet. Meanwhile, like everyone else is attacking them for the dumbest shit. Is like not because they are a woman, not because they are a preacher, but because not because they're a preacher, but because they're a woman who wants to like be a religious leader. It's like not attack them for wanting to be a religious leader.
Yeah.
Like fuck them for that.
But I kind of like the it's like a satisfying like satirism of like as a woman you wanted to be a religious religious leader for a group of people who will never respect you for it and will constantly belittle you for it. And I kind of feel like there's like poetic justice in that. Like obviously that's not okay. That's what people are gonna do. But I kind of love that they're stuck dealing with that quagmire.
Well, I guess I don't know enough of the differences, and I guess within like Lutheranism, Lutheran
church,
like it's different. Yeah. But like it was a bunch of people that were like, we're Catholics and you're an abomination.
Sure.
It's like it was just like, okay, the secular or not the divide among here is just fucking ridiculous.
Let them eat each other. Fuck it, dude. I hope their bigotry
thought it was crazy that like, okay, this was a joke that I thought was like, okay, it's not in my top 10, but it's probably the funniest thing I've seen from a religious person. And I wouldn't have even like known they were like, oh, I'm actually a religious leader. I guess they did say they went to seminary school, but like whatever, until I went to the comments and it was just full of just shit. It was like not from like secular people, but from fucking Catholics.
I think that's awesome. I encourage them. I encourage Catholics to be as sexist as possible to their other fellow Christians. Fuck them, dude. Fuck all of them. Man, the even just the expressions of that bishop's homily directed at Trump and Vance.
Yeah,
was good stuff. That was good, and their responses to it were so vile and disgusting. I can't imagine how you justify being even religious Republican today.
Let me make one final plea, Mr. President. Millions have put their trust in you. And as you told the nation yesterday, you have felt the providential hand of a loving God. In the name of our God, I ask you to have mercy upon the people in our country who are scared now. There are gay, lesbian, and transgender children in Democratic, Republican, and independent families, some who fear for their lives. And the people who pick our crops and clean our office buildings, who labor in poultry farms and meat packing plants, who wash the dishes after we eat in restaurants and work the night shifts in hospitals, they may not be citizens or have the proper documentation. But the vast majority of immigrants are not criminals. They pay taxes and are good neighbors. They are faithful members of our churches and mosques, synagogues, wadara, and temples. I ask you to have mercy, Mr. President, on those in our communities whose children fear that their parents will be taken away, and that you help those who are fleeing war zones and persecution in their own lands to find compassion and welcome here. Our God teaches us that we are to be merciful to the stranger, for we were all once strangers in this land.
Even if you look at it and outside of a religious perspective and say like, oh yeah, like be considerate of people being people and have, be considerate of, or have empathy.
Yeah, they can't like even do the fake arguments of like,
yeah,
yo, we know, Jesus, even if he would, endorse anti-immigration, like at least he would treat them kind. Like they can't even do the fake arguments of like, well, we just have to do what's safe. Jesus would understand, but we'll do so with kindness. They can't even pretend. It's just make fun of them. Make fun of the weak who are saying to show mercy. It's like, it's just so fucked. But it's important to remember he has a new relationship with God now that he's been shot at a couple times. And, and part of that relationship with God now is apparently he has a direct line of communication with like the Pope, and he knows what's right and what's wrong. What if he goes Super Saiyan with the Holy Spirit and he starts like saying, like as his dementia worsens, he starts becoming the voice of God, and then you know what I mean? Like there's a plausible route Trump becomes an actual prophet.
You can
see it, can't you?
I like the idea that and this would make for a great movie or a short story of an idea of like, okay, he's a terrible tyrant piece of shit. And then, he says all this crazy shit and everyone's just like, oh, whatever, it's just him doing his thing. That's just, he just does that. And then, like slowly he starts to like be taken over by like, maybe it's not like God, but like, Lovecraftian horror, the old God kind of shit. And he's just like saying all this crazy shit and it's just speaking through him and he becomes it. And no one even says anything and notices because he's always been just a fucking lunatic.
Let me just put this out here for the record. Eldritch horrors?
Eldritch horror, yeah.
It's bad aesthetic.
It's not my favorite, but it is recognizable.
Yeah, just because what's that one writer that it's
Lovecraft.
All based on? Yeah, dude. Yeah. Lovecraft. Weak.
I think it has...
Not a very creative fellow.
It has potential to be very cool.
To a 12-year-old, am I right?
The idea of like these old, ancient, mysterious...
What is interesting about a god just because it's older? He's just been dumber longer.
Oh, like we don't even know. We don't know. We don't even know about these gods. We've been worshiping false prophets the whole time. There's this fucking squid man in the ocean that needs our support.
I do like the insanity angle. Like I like when it gets more. There's a text game going way back of that's based off Lovecraft stuff, and it all becomes plausible because you're just mentally ill. And I enjoy when like horror or even sci-fi kind of goes that angle where it's like the supernatural isn't real because it has organic grounding. I feel like it's more interesting or compelling to me then.
I like one more thing before we can go back to the podcast. I like a interpretation I read recently where it said it's not like comprehending the incomprehensible is not about like the whole like the madness aspect of that. It's not from like, oh, you learned a thing you shouldn't have learned. It's you experienced a full experience that you were never meant to see. And the example they gave was, imagine if you were an ant and you were crawling onto like a computer chip or like a motherboard or something. And then within like for just a moment, you understood not just like, you understood like what this motherboard is and what it does and how it works and what a computer is. And then like the comprehended the people who made it and what their lives are and their feelings are and their, motives are and like their history and the shit like that. Like you comprehended all of that for a moment and then it was gone. And it's like your entire life now feels void of something because you got a glimpse into something. So you spend your entire life trying to get back to that or trying to reach out for more of it, but you can never attain it. That's the madness, quote unquote. And I thought like that's torturous and terrible and beautiful.
Well, if you ever want to experience it, that is exactly what heroin addiction is. Not even joking, bro. There's like such a sad realization you have at some point as you try to get sober where it's like, I actually will never feel as good as I did then. Like that wonder, that bliss is actually unattainable. Like if you want to like throw off what your mind is capable of feeling at like 1 year old, dose this child with heroin and they'll never feel good again. It's pretty rad.
Pretty fucking terrible.
Yeah, dude. Hell yeah. 941.
Go right back to it. 3. Go ahead.
Real quick, can you hear my cat screeching?
No.
Okay.
Worst of all, in the feminist mind, is patriarchy, right? This male-dominated authority structure that feminists view as really the source of the world's evils.
Yep.
Hence the war cry of the feminist, down with the patriarchy. Now, so-called Christian feminists, or egalitarians, are often more subtle about how they approach this issue than you would find in secular feminism. But fundamentally, they embrace the same basic disdain for hierarchies. We're going to look at some of the examples in just a moment.
Please.
But in particular, they're opposed to patriarchy. They will say that patriarchy is an evil. And so they claim to reject authority structures. But what's dishonest about this is that in reality, feminists don't really want to tear down hierarchical structures. Any good comrade.
He's going to do the meme.
They just want a transfer of power. They want to be at the top of the power structure, not to actually just obliterate it altogether. That's why you see these movements and kind of the messaging is, well, look, men had their shot. Now it's time for women and minorities to be at the top of the structure, right? They're still for hierarchy, even though they claim to be against it. What they're against is men being at the top of that hierarchy.
Called it.
Now, the second thing is this.
Dude, this is what all these losers do, man. It's like actually so pathetic. Like they're trying to embody the hard man, the strong man. And they're like, hey, the patriarchy is a good thing. And we need to prevent these women and minorities from trying to tear it down because they might take our place at the top. It's like, no one fucking thinks that way. Yeah. No one is thinking this. And the people that do, the small percent of people that are like, fucking tear down those people are fucking cringe too. But to be like, I'm the strong, hard dude, and I'm worried about people taking my place at the top it is not the argument that is being made the majority of the time. And when it is made, it is also cringe. And what I feel like anytime it comes to religion, and increasingly Republicans, because they are destroying our country and they're vile traitors, I am very animated because this dude's a fucking pastor. This is what he's teaching thousands of boys and young men. This is what he makes money doing, is furthering his beliefs. that harm people. Like, it's so fucking gross. Yeah. And I just, there should be
it's embarrassing, really.
Yeah, there just should be no mercy to these people. Like, there's a difference between believing something that's weird or off or whatever and propagating it, for being responsible for it, for profiting from it. If you don't mind, I have a little bit of the manifesto I'm writing that I think's relevant. Okay, this is
go for it.
Part 3, titled "Beliefs Have Consequences." This is I've been trying to write this thing to try to like justify, very, very open about what I'm doing, of like why I believe what I do and why I feel the way I do. Part 3. Beliefs have consequence. We are what we believe. Our thoughts, feelings, and beliefs are real, and they carry consequence. Among these truths, belief is the most consequential. While we may not hear the voices, would you deny the hallucinations of the demented? Our beliefs dictate our destiny. And while I deny our destiny to be predetermined, if you believe it to be, it will. Our beliefs about ourselves define our relationship with ourselves. Our beliefs about others define our relationship with others. And our beliefs about the world define our relationship with the world. More still, our beliefs are contagious, as they influence and infect the beliefs of others. And just as not all animals are made equal, neither are our beliefs. Some beliefs are better or worse than others. Some offer comfort, while others are harmful. Some feed the hungry, when others would rather eat them. These acts are mere symptoms of belief. And I feel like this dude believes a lot of ugly shit that in turn makes a lot of ugly stuff. I just really fucking hate. I can understand people believing bad shit, but I really, really hate it when they push bad shit, you know?
Yeah.
Just there's snake oil salesman, dude.
There's the one of the guys who one of the flat earther guys that we were talking about before.
He's
one of the ones that was
in 2 days.
He was. Oh yeah.
Yeah. The guy's
are you talking
about
the pastor guy or the preacher guy?
No, I thought we were talking about Whitsec.
Oh no, not him. There's one guy who is a preacher who he talked all the time about, like, you know, it would be, we could solve all this if we could, you know, go to Antarctica, but you can't go to Antarctica because, you know, you get gunned down at the
polar wall. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And they're like, no, like
the shadow
even had somebody with them that's like, no, we can go, like, we'll go. And then they invited him to come, and he was like, no, I'm not going to go. And then when they got the 24-hour sun, he was like, that was the work of the devil. We know from scripture that the devil can control the weather and can control, like, you don't think the devil could make that happen? And it's like, man, it's pretty bonkers. Like, not only could the devil do that, but your God could do it too. You know, if he was trying to send a signal to you to prove a point that, like, hey, this is real.
It's just a test of faith. Why would God block Satan's power if he didn't want to test your willingness to believe?
Yeah.
Bro. The labyrinth of is insane, dude.
That's why you had the devil put all those. Have the devil put all those, T-Rex bones up in the ground, all the dinosaur bones, just to test your faith. It's not real. It's a liberal agenda.
Now, the second thing is this. Complementarianism is at root an appeasement and a compromise with the fundamental tenets of Marxist feminism. So right from the very beginning, when Piper and Grudem,
bro, there's really so many fucking
theology and systematized it.
I don't think it's really, you're not really working with people when you're like, okay, we're quote unquote equal with the air quotes, but we're not really.
equal but different distinction between men and women, they do accept the fundamental assumption that hierarchies are inherently evil, including, and I want you to hear this.
Bro, life is a hierarchy.
Biblical patriarchal.
It's like animal, like...
On page 11 of
people who say that don't mean it that way. It's so stupid.
If one word must be used to describe our position, we prefer the term complementarian, since it suggests both equality and beneficial differences between men and women. We are uncomfortable with the term traditionalist because it implies an unwillingness to let Scripture challenge traditional patterns of behavior, and we certainly reject hierarchicalist because it overemphasizes structured authority while giving no suggestion of equality or the beauty of mutual independence. End quote.
Okay.
Now, well-meaning as they seem in protecting some form of biblical male and female role distinctions, Piper and Grudem nevertheless reject the biblical doctrine of masculine authority and God-appointed hierarchy. Right? This is what they're getting at. Look, we don't like this hierarchical language. We don't want to support it. And so we're going to choose language that deviates from the scriptural record. In doing so, they commit the sin that C.S. Lewis warned us about.
Oh, shit. What did he say from Narnia?
They remove the organ, but they demand the function. They call men to bear responsibility, but they deny them the God-ordained authority to do so.
Fuck C.S. Lewis. Fucking little loser boy writing about lions in a closet.
Without a hierarchical structure and genuine authority, leadership is nothing but a neutered illusion. I want to illustrate this point further by referencing an article by Mary Cassian that appeared on the Gospel Coalition. It was titled Complementarianism for Dummies. Now keep in mind, Mary Cassian, a female, is a professor at Southern Baptist Theological Seminary in Louisville. And in this article, she's actually trying to defend complementarianism. Notice what she writes. This is the third point that she lays out about complementarity.
Fucking spit it out, Eric. Come on.
A proletariat bourgeois type hierarchy has no place in complementarity. Feminist theorists maintain that male-female role differences create an over-under hierarchy, in which men who are like the privileged elite French landowners, the bourgeois, of the 18th century, keep women, who are like the lower, underprivileged class of workers, proletariat, subservient. Complementarians, however, do not believe that men as a group rank higher than women. Men are not superior to women. Women are not the second sex. Men have a responsibility to exercise headship in their homes and church family, and Christ revolutionized the definition of what that means. Now, this is the crucial part. I want you to listen to this.
This is the crux. This is the crux.
She writes, authority is not the right to rule. It is the responsibility to serve. We rejected the term hierarchicalism because people associate it with an inherent self-proclaimed right to rule.
There we go. We got to it. That's what he fell back on last time.
Is the idea
of
like basically what he was just explaining was complementarians don't believe that women are subservient. Complementarians just believe that they should do subservient things.
So for Cassian, any hierarchical system is inherently evil. Husbands, in her view, have the responsibility to rule, but they do not have the authority. This is crazy, right? You cannot separate authority to rule from the responsibility to rule. That makes no sense. Contrary to what Cassian argues, the biblical view of authority is the God-ordained right to rule with the responsibility that comes with it. Proper rule is always a combination of authority and responsibility.
The God-ordained part is doing a lot of the lifting.
He's falling into the Spider-Man fallacy. Okay, he's Peter Parking way too hard. Great power, great responsibility. It's so hard to have God's authority because all the responsibility of ruling. Okay?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He is the holy version of a pimp. Okay, if you listen to these interviews with pimps, this is the exact same shit. It's hard pimping out my hose because I'm so responsible. I have to buy all their food. I got to make all the appointments. I got to make sure they look. It's that same thinking, just with different clothes on. It's the exact same shit. God gave me this responsibility. I'm not the authoritarian. I'm the one that's burdened by bullying all these bitches. That's like the whole shtick is like, and the argument is to like a very modest pushback of people saying like, hey, we're capable of doing the same things you are. And then the response by him, of course, is, well, we're suited better for different roles. And then the response back is, well, that doesn't mean we all can't achieve various roles, even if some people are more inclined than others. And then his response is, well, actually, you know, since we're the best suited for these roles, I don't think you should do that. And it's really a burden for me to have to define these roles with all your secular Marxism. And really, it's all about maintaining this power structure. It's so fucking... It's so, like, squirrely and non-hard. He's like the softest doughboy little baby, dude.
Yeah.
They just want to fight for their right to whine.
Yeah, no, truly. It's a want to fight for the right to whine, but he beats around the bush about shit so much. We've pointed out several times, like he doesn't say what he truly feels.
Means.
Yeah.
He's exposed his real position so many times in the past where, like, if you were just listening to segments of this, it might not even sound that bad. Like, if you were, like, a middle-aged Christian guy, you just vibe to this shit. It's like, yeah, of course, dude. Like, yeah, it's hard being a guy. We're the ones who maintain, you know, like, it's not, like, aggressively sexist or whatever, like, outright in small moments. But, like, when you look at it's the Ben Shapiro illusion of, like, you start zooming out and looking at shit, and it's like, yo, this dude gives away the game every 20 minutes. And when you add all these things up, it's very clear what he does and does not believe. And it's all just like smoke screens and mirrors to hide the pimping, you know?
Yep. To hide the pimping.
It's a pimp with a gun.
Found the episode title.
Now, I want you to think of one example.
Thank you.
Say you leave your oldest son at home to watch his siblings.
Okay.
Well, in order for this to be effective, you have to delegate your authority as well as the responsibility if he is to be effective in leading his siblings.
So you give your son the gun.
Give him the responsibility and they say, but you have no authority, then it's not going to work, is it? Right? Because we all know fundamentally that leadership and rule require both authority and responsibility.
Okay.
Now,
Peter
in
Parker.
reality, as we'll discuss in coming episodes, hierarchies...
He took that
They
nowhere?
are part of God's design. That's
What
what's
a
wrapped
waste
up
of
in
our
the
time, dude.
Yeah.
What a fucking idiot.
He's really rambling through some shit this episode. He lost his attention grabbers.
What a stupid fucking analogy.
You know, this podcast we're at like 16 minutes in. It could be done by now if he just condensed all the horse shit.
He's like Yogi Bear, and he just piled up a full car full of picnic baskets. And then he started the car and went to pull out of the driveway, and instead he just walked out away.
Yeah.
Drove that fucking shit nowhere, dude.
He's chock-a-block full of picnic baskets and said, all right, we'll move on to the next thing.
What a fucking idiot.
Oppression of women. Notice right away that patriarchy and oppression are like the same word in these people's mind. This is the complementarian camp. Okay? I'm continuing with the quote now. Technically, patriarchy simply means a social organization in which the father is the head of the family, but she writes, since the 1970s, feminists have redefined the historic use of the term and attributed negative connotation to it. Now,
I really don't like this thing where when guys want to tear down what they see as a woman's point of view, they use women authors to emphasize their point. It's really gross.
Yeah.
Like, there aren't tons of fucking dumb or disgusting women that can make bad points too.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
It's like,
100%.
Like, I found a woman who said it.
Anybody can be a dumb fuck.
Yeah. Like, you won't believe it. I found a woman who said something dumb, but I mean, she was a Christian, so big surprise, right?
Continuing with the quote, she says, patriarchy is regarded as a misogynistic system in which women are put down and squelched. That's why we rejected the term patriarchalism. Complementarians stand against the oppression of women. We want to see women flourish, and we believe they do so when men and women live together according to God's word. She continues, who we are as male and female is ultimately not about us. It's about testifying to the story of Jesus. We do not get to dictate what manhood and womanhood are all about. Our Creator does. That's the basis of complementarianism. Now, this part is very important, so pay attention. If you hear someone tell you that complementarity means you have to get married, have dozens of babies, and be a stay-at-home housewife, clean toilets, completely forgo a career, chuck your brain, tolerate abuse, watch Leave It to Beaver reruns, bury your gifts, deny your personality, and bobblehead nod yes to everything that men say, well, don't believe her. That's a straw woman.
A straw woman, not a straw man.
Clown, dude. Transfer another music into another stupid song. Holy shit.
First of all, Cassian has lumped godly commandments. Right, the first three things that she mentioned, marriage,
getting farther away from the microphone so I can yell louder.
Productive role in the household. Those are all commandments and good things from God. But what did she do? She lumped them together with evil things. Spousal abuse, right? And then you got brainless toilet scrubbing, and suffocation of women's giftings, not having a personality or an opinion or any say in a marriage, right? She lumped them all together like this is one big package deal. And you can understand why. It's just a rejection of all of it together. Now, second, and related, Cassian equates patriarchy with societal oppression of women, right? She just seems to accept this definition of patriarchy, which is both absurd and unbiblical.
Unbiblical.
The insinuation is that patriarchy itself is inherently oppressive because it's a hierarchical system. And so much of this, people don't realize this, but so much of this ideology is influenced by Marxist feminism.
Just saying the same shit over and over again.
It's like a Trump press conference.
Never getting to the fucking point.
This dude does not know what Marxism is.
He does not.
For the record, I don't like Marxism either. And most of the people that say they like Marxism don't fucking know what Marxism is.
Every single variety. This is why the church is awash with sexual sin. Because if you limit biblical masculinity and femininity to the pulpit and the father-husband role,
not the father-daddy,
then they basically have nothing to say to the rest of society.
I mean, it's the same argument when people are like, hey, I think, it should be easier for people to get healthcare. And they're like, well, fucking just hand it over to the Reds then. We're all fucking comrades now, aren't we?
Many complementarians fail to effectively extend masculinity and femininity to any other sphere. And so there's no definition for those sexual terms in things like competency, physical prowess, sexual potency.
I don't ever want to hear him say sexual potency.
Military service, self-defense, firearms, financial decisions. Should you be in debt? Social mannerisms.
Daddy has the best social mannerisms.
John Piper says this in his book.
Dude, have you seen the Tucker Carlson talking about Daddy coming back to spank us?
No.
Bro, they're like actually called, like, they're playing into the meme, but they call Trump Daddy now. And Tucker's like, Daddy's coming back to spank you like a bad girl.
That was spot on.
Turned into a seal.
There has to be a point at which Dad comes home. And he's pissed. Dad is pissed. He's not vengeful. He loves his children. Disobedient as they may be, he loves them. Because they're his children, they live in his house. But he's very disappointed in their behavior. And he's gonna have to let them know. He's gonna have to get to your room right now and think about what you did. And when Dad gets home, you know what he says? You've been a bad girl. You've been a bad little girl and you're getting a vigorous spanking right now. And no, It's not going to hurt me more than it hurts you. No, it's not. I'm not going to lie. This is going to hurt you a lot more than it hurts me. And you earned this. You're getting a vigorous spanking because you've been a bad girl.
John Piper is saying that masculinity has nothing to do with competency. It has nothing to do with skill. It has nothing to do with your capabilities as a man. And it has nothing to do with what you do with your body. Now, I want to make this very, very clear. That's exactly the Gnostic notion of sexuality and manhood in particular that I have been trying to kill with this podcast and my blog. I think it's utter garbage. I think it is the reason the church is in the bad position that it's in today. Because people, well-meaning people, are teaching and espousing these views. They're Gnostic, right? And
you know what they say, the old caustic Gnostics, am I right, fellas?
The Bible, according to them, has nothing to say to the way that men dress. It's fine if you wear skinny jeans. It really has no bearing on your sexuality at all.
Not at all.
Culturally, scientifically, on the other hand, we know these things are
culturally,
false.
scientifically. I'd love to hear a breakdown.
Now, as a result of this Gnostic sexuality, right, it leaves us without clear definition of masculinity or femininity for every area of life. The church has been awash with functional androgyny, effeminacy, metrosexuality, same-sex attraction, and various other.
I think I've never heard anyone say anything about metrosexual since 2005.
Yeah. The feminist movement by softening the message of Scripture. We can soften biblical patriarchy.
Yeah.
Androgyny is hot as fuck.
They've been the places where sexual perversion has been happening in these soft left Reformed churches. Now, at one point, Amy Bird and Carl Trueman actually argued that sexual difference were virtually indistinguishable and insignificant. Now, I will say later on, they did try to walk that back and do a little bit of back.
I don't know what's happening.
Tracking, but you could kind of see where they were coming from. Right, to them,
yeah, you have the soft guitar, and he's.
I feel like I'm on acid, dude. Like,
sexuality basically means nothing.
There's too many different audio things going on in my headphones.
Yeah, dude. This is a not well man, okay? In the basement of a church, just rambling. He's like flagellating himself with a whip. And
just
then he gets
rubbing his gun against his testicles. And
dude, yeah, he's like grinding on a gun. His back's bleeding all over the floor. And he's just talking to God right now, bro.
So here is what's going on. The Mortification of Spin crew, right? So that's Carl Trueman.
Imagine the person listening to this and taking notes.
Dude, that's the funniest thing you can say. Oh, God, dude. They're like on their lunch break, like... Just praise the Lord, brother. They're on like page 10.
They're trying to get their life together, and they're like, this guy's gonna teach me.
This dude's got it down.
I'm gonna be a hard man.
They ridiculed the idea that there was any, quote, biblical manhood and womanhood filter, end quote, that life and career decisions needed to be put through, end quote.
This is AI slop. Would you be surprised?
He's doing this shit before it was cool.
Yeah, dude.
Now, the fifth point I want to make is that Piper and Grudem define a man's role solely in terms of his service to women. Aaron Wren pointed this out, and it's very helpful. If you get a chance on Amazon Prime, you can go and watch Man Rampant. Episode number 3, he sits down with Doug Wilson, and he talks explicitly about this point. And his point is that man is supposed to have a mission, which is dominion. It's outward facing in the world, and it includes his marriage, and it includes
we've gone through his dominion beliefs before.
Yeah.
Right? Man was made for a mission and an adventure, and that's dominion over the whole cosmos. But what
I call it Star Wars.
In
the book of George Lucas.
You can see how this is an appeasement to the feminists. Well, look, yeah, he's still going to be in a role of authority-ish. He's still going to be kind of your head-ish.
Ish.
But here's the good news, ladies. His only purpose in life is to serve you. It's all domestically focused, right? Every feminist dream come true, but it doesn't work.
Ooh.
So I want to read to you from Piper and Grudem. This is what they say.
I want to throw this out there. Piper seems to be the Socrates to Eric's Plato.
Sure.
He's where he's getting all of his shit from.
Mm-hmm.
And he seems to really adore this
old Mr. Pipes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, I just noticed that the cover art for his podcast is a young man,
like
assumedly about to kill an old man while a child
grab his penis. Yeah, dude, what the fuck?
It's very fucked.
Dude, I feel like in Eric's past life, he was a slaver, dude. Like he was the dude with all the keys, you know?
And he just yearns to live it again.
Why are these people this way?
Mental illness.
So much of this is the symptoms of culture, right?
Mm-hmm.
I would be really curious about his conversion, and I think we may have talked over it, but I think he did reference a certain either speaking event or book he read by Piper that I would be curious to get my hands on. But you have to think, like, so many people are raised into, like, this is a more male-centric strain of Christianity, right? But
yeah,
so many people are born into this shit, and I'm so curious that what as a young hard man, like, made you think, like, I'm not going to question or rebel or decide what I want to believe on my own, but instead I'm just going to go full in to the culture I was born in, because obviously that one has to be the best, right?
Right.
It's the same thinking of like, well, we're Americans. Like, of course it's the best country. Of course this is what we are owed, what we deserve, you know. They all believe in other gods, but ours is the right one.
Yeah.
I just don't understand. Where is the self-reflection? There's like there's nothing wrong with them or what they believe. It's all culture war shit. It's all the climate around them of what's wrong with all these other people that makes us
It is
like,
it is very sad when you do meet people that are like, oh, you've never like considered the like thought through your actions or your past or anything that you've ever been told. Like, you've never been introspective at all. And if you have, it's been through a lens of trying to prove that you are right. And like being willing to shift the truth so that you can continue to believe that you are in the right and everyone else around you who told you that you were right are right. And never actually considered any kind of opposition to that. And it's extremely sad, I think. I think it's
abuse.
It's like, I mean, honestly, it's like meeting people, whether like, you know, when I was in my early to mid 20s, especially, meeting people and they're like, you know, working in restaurants, and people were like, you know, like, oh, like, what do you want to do? Like, do you want to like keep going with the culinary thing? Do you want to keep, or you want to like, do you have any like goals or dreams or anything that like you want to try? Like, if the sky's the limit, like, what would you do? And they're like, I have no idea. I've never even thought about it before. And it's like, you don't like, even if you're just saying like, oh, I want to be a fucking astronaut and shit. And it's like, yeah, it might not happen at this point. If you're, you know, in your mid 40s and you've been working as a dishwasher your whole life. Yeah. But like, I don't know, having something where it's like any kind of something to grip onto or look at.
And I know you think this too, but on the other end of the spectrum, it is far more understandable even to be like, yo, I'm totally lost. Like, I don't know
exactly
what I'm going to do, but I'm Like I want to figure it out. I hope I figure it out. Like I don't know where to go. Like
yeah, just that is don't know is one thing. Like I don't know. I'm figuring it out. It's whatever right now and whatever. But to say like I don't know, don't know, don't care.
Here's what I've been going back to, and I feel like not that I think this is wrong, but it might be incomplete. When I think back on my life, losing God was really, it's so cheesy, but it truly, I think, was the hard, like, it's among the hardest things to go through, I feel like. Mm-hmm. And I truly, it's not the same, right? There are degrees of harm. It's not the same as like being physically abused, but I truly think it can be a very traumatic, abusive thing mm-hmm. to control a child's life into truly believing in a religion. Again, there's no consent in that. That's what you're born into. That's your culture. That's what everyone around you tells. And I kind of think more and more that so much of this, like it is so deep rooted and like psyche altering that these people, even as adults, they are all like still stuck on this one lie where like the betrayal of God not being real, or that what they were told isn't the best, most truest thing, is really a really scary thing to turn away from. And I think that lie that we're, over 90% of the US at least, what most of us are told as a kid is that God loves you. And I think that is such a profoundly gross thing to tell a child.
Yeah. Yeah. Worse than, like, I've talked to people about this. I'm sure we've talked about it too, like the Santa Claus issue of like, do you...
It's that times a million.
Yeah, it's like, at least with Santa Claus, it's like, at some point you're going to tell them that it's not true. And even after you tell them that it's not true, there's like I don't know, like Santa Claus it's not God. It's not like he, I guess he does see you when you're sleeping and he knows when you're awake, but
it's the child's version of a God though.
Yeah.
Like it still can, like if you told it to a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old, it still could be traumatic. They thought they didn't get gifts that year, so they think Santa thought they were bad. Like that is a weird, the omnipresent, spiritually powerful creature that was spying on you and judging your morality and said you were bad. Like that's
yeah.
I don't like the Santa thing.
Santa gave less toys to your family because you're poor than this other family. I'm all for the idea of just removing Santa from Christmas entirely. I'm all for that. And which is weird because I think that's where a lot of Catholics and Christians would agree of like Christmas isn't about Santa Claus and the gifts. Christmas is about the birth of Christ, and it's like I don't want to push that far, but I'm fully down with the idea of like it's just foolish. It's one thing if you're like, here's the story and this is the thing, but it's all not real. If you want to like, this is the story and this is what some people believe it and this and that, but it's not real. Like it's just people's parents buying them their gifts. Like if you want to like tell them about it, but don't make them believe it, that's one thing. I think that's the part of the beginning of it is like when you're taught when you're young that like the world is fantastical and there's magic and all this, and then it's like
someone loves them.
Yeah, and then there's the drop.
Shit. It's like
there's a person that loves you unconditionally, and they bring you gifts and they do shit for you, and then to drop that out from underneath them, or when they figure it out on their own that like, hey, a lot of this isn't adding up. Like, where's the backbone of this leading to? Like how many times am I willing to look the other way while I keep finding inconsistencies here? It's
actual pimping. It is like spiritual pimpery. Okay, it's like you tell the girl you love them, right? That's how it starts, and then you start up pulling that away and enforcing religious dogma rules and shit. Like it truly is a form of abuse, and these people like made it into their adulthood without ever truly breaking the hold that these lies had on them.
Sad.
And it is like when you meet a well-intentioned, compassionate, pathetic Christian, right? Just living their life, trying to be a good person. I think that is sad.
Yeah.
And then you meet their priest, and it's a guy like fucking Eric.
Yeah.
And it is
it's like
it's worse than anything they ever say about their Satan,
Yeah. It's this poor person that this confused, or for whatever reason, like this person that's like, they're just trying, like any of us, just trying to find a meaning or trying to find a thing, and like this is something that's been taught to them since they were a child, and it just seems to always be the thing that worked for them. And so for whatever reason that they keep going back to it without, they might have had doubts and looked away at some points, but like they keep coming back to it kind of thing. Like it sucks for them 100%. But yeah, you meet like you said, it's the pimp. It's the person that's, making sure you show up for church every weekend and trying to get you involved with other groups that are within the church, so you don't talk to more people outside the church and shit like that.
Put money in the basket every week, and you have your kids show up at the it's so gross, dude.
Sad. But I enjoy the church bells I hear.
Church bells are beautiful. So are trains. I mean, things can be cool. That I would like religious aesthetic.
Every Sunday
because it's been
morning and every
into me.
Wednesday night, I get little chorus of bells, and it's some like
drunk
just
angels. Beers.
It's just far enough away that it's like very like kind of like reverb and echoey.
Yeah, romanticize the.
It's good.
The religious audio abuse of your community.
Yeah, I try not to, think of what's going on within the walls of the, all the brainwashing going on. Yep.
Screaming for help.
Quote, at the heart of mature masculinity is a sense of benevolent responsibility to lead, provide for, and protect women in ways appropriate to man's differing relationships. End quote. So what do we see here? Well, it's this. While there is an obvious truth in man's role of protection and provision, right? That's biblical. Genesis 2:15. Man is to work, and he's to keep, and he's to provide for his wife, and he's to protect his children and his family. That's true. But that is not the central overarching mission of a man's life.
What is it then,
Piper
Eric?
and Grudem fail to capture man's dominion mandate in a world-facing posture. Man's mission, if he's to be successful, God-glorifying, if he's to be satisfied and happy in his work, and also if the woman's to be satisfied and happy, his mission cannot be the woman. This is a huge mistake, and it is a sin against nature and the created order. Man is not to be defined in terms of taming the world, in this view, or building culture, but merely in terms of domestic duties.
Right?
So fucking weird, dude. What a skeevy perv, man.
Yeah.
There's no talk of God-ordained authority or of man's highest mission, as we said, taking dominion of the earth. Instead, woman is his only mission. Man's sole purpose is to serve his wife. And as Aaron Wrenn points out, this lie of servant leadership, women say, well, and men say too, it's time to man up. What they really mean is man up and serve your wife. Right? This is conflating the biblical record about what man's leadership role is supposed to be in that relationship and in the way that he faces the world.
I'll tell you what he's talking about. He's saying, I'm serving my wife. I'm being a leader because I'm serving my wife. I'm being in charge because.
But I think he was just making fun of people who thought that too.
This is really just the quintessential picture of a neutered, domesticized, nice guy, soy latte sipping husband that the feminist would want to marry. It's anything but the picture of patriarchal, historical, biblical manhood. Now, sixth, Piper admits, and I think this is very important.
I thought he was going the other direction of like, we need to be doing this for our wife.
No,
I could have taken that the wrong way, but
I think so. I think he's putting it all on Dominion. I don't think he actually cares about like honoring the wife, like romantically or socially. But yeah.
So here's the deal, John.
Well, I definitely don't think he means that.
And his dad was gone all the time. He was not there when John was being raised. And so he sort of
I feel like T.I.'s about to drop on this beat.
That's not how John records it, but that's what he did.
What's going on?
He abandoned his family for lengthy periods of time, and he left John Piper's mother to lead the household and raise the children. And so John talks about, well, she did all the house, she ran the household, she fixed the lawnmower, she cut the grass, she showed me how to pull weeds, she taught me how to stand up to bullies, all this stuff. It was his mother who ran the household and raised the children.
And he does honor that, I believe.
Who took them to church, who did functionally everything. She fulfilled both roles. Well, it's not surprising that John would have confused roles about gender identity and those roles in marriage.
Oh, he's saying that's wrong also.
Right? It's not surprising then that his teaching on sexuality is highly sympathetic to a sort of feminist ideology and to Gnostic views of sexuality. I think it's an important feature to keep in mind. Now, number 7.
What was his point?
The book
I don't understand.
It strangely begins with a chapter on singleness. Now, when I first read this, I was like, why would you start a book on sexuality with singleness? You know, God wrote a book. It's called the Bible. And he began his book by saying it's not good for men and women. It's not good for man to be alone. So I'm going to create a woman out of your rib. And I'm going to create the institution of marriage. And then I'm going to call you to take dominion and to be fruitful. So very central in this work of dominion is God's institution of marriage and family. So it's really, really almost impossible biblically to define masculinity and femininity apart from marriage and children.
Okay.
It's almost impossible. It's certainly not the normal way to talk about sexuality. And yet in their book, this is exactly where they begin. And I think it's a crucial, crucial mistake. Why are John Piper and Wayne Grudem trying to appeal to single Christians?
Mm-hmm.
Well, what they do this is the first opening chapter.
That's what people want to know.
First chapter.
Yeah.
I think what they're trying to do is distance sexuality from these two institutions of marriage and family.
They're clearly doing the opposite of that, you stupid gourd of a man.
So what they do is they argue from Paul and from Jesus about two unmarried dudes. They argue that sexuality should be understood apart from those institutions. Again, I just don't know how you could formulate something that flew more directly in the face of Scripture, right? Scripture begins, marriage, family. These are good. This is like a man's role. Like, duh. Very central, very basic. And John Piper and Wayne Grudem are saying, no, we're going to write a book on sexuality and we're going to aim it at single people. I don't get it. I mean, I would like to believe the best. I like to think that it's not pernicious, but it seems at best just stupid.
He does this, though. His podcast is about biblical sexuality.
Yeah.
Unironically.
It's about biblical masculinity. And that's different because masculinity is about a man with his wife.
That's true. Multiple episodes, the topic of discussion has been biblical sexuality.
Yeah.
He ties these concepts together constantly.
But you have to be,
they do it in their book.
You have to be married first. He's saying that you can't talk about sexuality outside the concept of the institution of marriage.
And family. Yeah, but he does it because it's what gets people in the door. It's what gets the fucking listens. It's what gets these red pill losers to listen to his podcast. Like, he knows why their book is about it. Am I missing something? It feels like he's just trying to rub dirt on his inspiration's face because he's better than they would. You know, they're too stupid.
I'm more holy and masculine than thou.
Yeah, why would you have your first chapter of your book about biblical sexuality when we all know the focus is on family and getting married. Meanwhile, I do a podcast about biblical sexuality half the time.
Yeah.
He's a hypocrite.
Hypocrite and a piece of shit. But we knew these things.
We did.
Just got to point them out.
I feel like there were a lot of weird things we did not catch in this episode.
I'm sure there's so much of this episode that it's
personal.
Yeah, it's very something happened to him where he felt. I feel like most of this has been like something either happened to him or someone said something to him specifically that made him. Yeah, he kind of questioned himself, and he found answers to build up his insecurities, and he kind of like put it on display here because he came with like a lot more like sources than he usually does.
Yeah, a lot of name drop. This is weak. This is not the quality of podcasting I expected from Eric Kahn. I feel like that he's phoning it in. Like, this sucks. Like,
this is a bad podcast.
We had to skip 2 episodes to get to this dog shit. I'm questioning our whole commitment to this journey now. He needs to get it back up. This is disappointing.
It's an unsatisfying experience that you've left us with, Eric. I mean, we still have 9 minutes left here. 8 minutes.
You think he can turn it around, or do we just fucking end it, dude?
I mean, we've come this far.
I agree.
We're already here. I don't think he's going to pull it back around, but I want to give him the opportunity to.
Dude, would be so easy to be a grifter like this, and he sucks at it. Like, he is not good at this.
No, he's really not, and it's. Like I said, it's sad. I think there's so much of this. I think AI slop. When you said that, like, that's really what this feels like. It's a lot of like repeating a lot of things that are like meaningless and without like a real defined point. But I mean, like, I guess AI. It's not that AI didn't exist then. It just wasn't like
it's like when
popular as a used thing.
It's like when Elon Musk is giving a press conference at the Oval Office, and he's got a son named X picking boogers and rubbing it all over the desk. And a reporter that's so nervous because they might be beheaded for asking the wrong question goes, do you actually have any accountability for these tyrannical things you're doing? And Elon goes, well, actually, we're the most accountable.
Yeah.
We publish it like every 15 minutes. He goes back to the same fucking dumbass stutter and repeats the same answer over and over for 2.5 hours while his kid is covered in boogers.
Trump sits there like in a mix
eating
of
the
confusion.
child's boogers.
Yeah, just grinding his teeth, and he's so fucking mad that he's not the president. So fucking sad. This is who we are. This is part of what we are.
And Eric Kahn's under the desk giving him the best blowjob of his life.
That's
boogers all over.
That's the only way they could keep Trump quiet for so long.
Eric Kahn to save the day.
The other thing that they do when they're arguing in this way is they fail to make an obvious distinction between celibacy and the sort of rampant, prolonged singleness that's practiced in today's culture. No one has the gift of singleness. You might have the gift of celibacy, but I guarantee you, like 99% of single people today, even those who claim to be Christian, right, they're looking at porn.
He's so out of touch with culture. Because the cultural complaint is that people don't want to be single.
Super spiritual, you'd be like, well, I just want to use my singleness to serve the orphans in Africa.
Hell yeah.
Never heard anyone say that.
Never once.
This glorification of singleness is bad.
Not that I'm going to go do it. I'm going to use my singleness to go do it.
Of course.
It's been bad for our culture. It's bad for the church and pastors. Look, stop doing it. If you're doing that, repent of that. Right? The normative, basic, normal thing scripturally, biblically to do is get married, have kids, make families, make babies, build a household, and take dominion of the earth. Let's stick with God on this point. It's very, very obvious from Genesis 1 and 2. Okay, what are these two dudes doing, Piper and Grudem? What are they doing when they're celebrating singleness? I want to make this super clear. They're undermining God's ordained context for living in obedience to your sex. The normal God-ordained context for living in obedience to your sex is marriage and family.
Obedience to your sex, dog. You got to be obedient to your balls, dude.
You know what? That would be a good website for like a BDSM
Yeah,
situation.
Obedient to sex.
A nice femdom kind of. Yeah.
Say, well, because Jesus does get married, by the way.
Oh, God.
You realize that. Jesus marries the church. Okay, so
fucking idiot, dude.
His role was not forever. Like he's hunting down his
Jesus
wife.
married his dad.
He's dying for her. He's purifying her in holiness.
I hate it, dude.
He's not glorified single forever. This is the stupidest theology on the planet, and it's used to excuse sin today. All right, so I want to conclude this way. I want to give a brief summary of everything we talked about.
Okay, please.
Yeah, dude, get this bullshit in order.
And so I hope your appetite is whetted and you want to look more into this. We haven't said everything there is to say.
Gross.
Why? Yeah.
But this is the summary and conclusion. From its inception, complementarianism was an appeasement to feminism. That's why it's failing, and that's why sexual sin is awash in the church. I believe John Piper and Grudem were trying to do a good thing. And they were correct in diagnosing the onslaught of feminism and sexual perversion in the church. You would basically have to be blind not to see that that was a problem coming out of the 70s. But here's the deal.
His whole life philosophy is shame-based.
Every time the church builds halfway houses in these half-hearted positions that are aimed at appeasing the world, all you critical race theory people, hear me out, social justice warriors, it's the same thing. Like, you are trying to appease the world and you're going to be destroyed. There is no appeasement.
Unnecessary cruelty,
What we need
right?
are men in the church
Yeah.
who hold firm to the full counsel of God.
What man of God speaks this way?
It's insane.
You point your ship into the storm that is the culture, and you say, with Athanasius, if the world is against me, then I am against the world. We need to take the red pill. We need to wake up to the reality that we live in a feminist world. It's the air we breathe, and we don't even know it. Right? The problem that Piper and Grudem faced, I believe, is that they tried to appease the feminist Marxist ideologies.
He had like one feminist girlfriend that broke up with him.
Yeah.
And he just cannot get over
That's
it.
exactly what I was thinking about earlier. There's something happened to him. He's taken it very personally.
He's bitter.
Yeah, he got broken up with and went through some hoops to justify it in his head.
But it's like Winston Churchill said, you do not negotiate with a tiger when your head is in its mouth.
She was way smarter than him, way outside of his league.
That's exactly what the church tried to do. And it's foolish.
He never healed.
Like the men that were running the church in the 90s predominantly were the Neville Chamberlains of the world. And they said the way that we're going to defeat feminism is by showing them how nice we are. And all it's done historically is show you how the church can get its butt whooped. Right? If you want to see the church get totally blown away by the culture, just do what they did in 1991. And what I want to do in this podcast is I want to show you there's a better way. There's a third way that we have not talked about as much, and that is biblical patriarchy. It is vehemently not complementarianism. Right? It's man's rule, man's full God-ordained authority. It's the war horse unleashed on the battlefield, right? It's men with chests. And by the way, it's strong women who are as much passionate about dominion warfare as the men.
It's men with their strong, oiled up chests.
That's the reality. They're not tough. They're lame. And biblical femininity is like the women of Sparta. They're tough. They're violent. They know how to bring sons and soldiers into the world, and that's what we need more of. Now, because of these well-intentioned compromises, the church today is awash with feminist
we need more violent horseman.
Yeah.
To be mean to those lame
in the pulpit, and J.D. Greer and Russell Moore approving of it. We're awash with gay PCA pastors. Yeah, that's a real thing, apparently. We're awash with effeminacy. We have an ESV Bible that just deletes that word from the text. And then we have churches whose pastors are effeminate, and they delete it from their churches. And we have scores of other sexual perversions. Listen to me, man. The only viable solution, and we're going to address this in coming episodes, the only viable solution is robust biblical patriarchy. It's what the world needs. It's what you need. It's what your family needs.
How many times do you think he's crushed his own dick with a Bible? Because it's not 0.
Oh no, it's a special occasion event for him.
Gotcha. Easter.
Yeah, he's got special Bible. He's got 2 of them. He's got to put it on top of one and smash it with the other. It's like a press.
That'll teach the gays.
It's how to take sexuality into every area of life, from the bedroom to the boardroom. It is the recognition that hierarchies
from the bedroom to the boardroom,
and that leadership and rule comes with God-ordained authority and responsibility. So I hope you'll continue to join us, take the red pill, come see what patriarchy is about, and we'll show you how far down the rabbit hole in the feminist world of lies and enslavement goes.
So embarrassing.
I want you to know, man, there's hope. There's hope in this world for men who will be
medieval
faithful
music.
to God and to the Word of God.
Who wrote that one?
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Hard Men Podcast.
I'm faithful to God and the Word of God, bro.
You can reach out to me on my website. That's erickcon.com.
Man, I think you might be onto something with AI. It's pretty
You can also hit me up on Twitter.
Maybe that could explain the voice discrepancy.
NN. Until next time, men, stay frosty.
Oh, stay frosty, boys.
Act like men.
It's fucking...
Man.
Yeah, that's, boy, what a hard listen.
I feel purged a bit. It felt good to scream. I feel at a loss of words a little bit.
Yeah, same. It is kind of comforting a little bit in the way of there are some times where you hear you think of the ignorance is bliss kind of thing, and it's like, man, I just, so many of the societal stresses and so many of the things that you think about because you have empathy and the things that you care about, and you can feel passion for because you have empathy in some type of way, you have knowledge of something. But then, and you think man, it would just be easier if I had some of this burden, if I could, take myself away from some of this sometimes. And then you see it in action, just a full idiot. And you're like, man, at least I'm not that. And I'm happy. I can see it on display and know that that's not for me. And I'm so glad I'm not as embarrassing as this man.
Yeah.
It's just sad.
I feel that too. I don't know if you got a chance to listen to any more of that or read that Weekly Patriot or any of Pisco the Pisser stuff, but I do feel pretty genuine concern. These people are winning.
Yeah.
For the white, and we'll do our deep dive on it maybe next episode, but the fact that we very well may soon have a White House faith office that is specifically designed to conserve Christian values, and that people like Eric Kahn have congregations and thriving podcasts, and that there's just such in many ways, like a cultural dedication to non-truths.
Yeah. It's one of the most upsetting things.
It's bad right now, dude.
Yeah.
Like we lost the internet, and the consequences are really high. It seems silly, but like Musk controlling Twitter now, like, you know, you get paid for tweets, right? Based on views now.
Oh, that's interesting.
It's been that way for like a year and a half, 2 years, but like your tweets are monetized, right? So you are directly incentivized to do whatever gets the most views, right?
Yeah.
So when he's sharing the German Nazi Party's posts about the Jewish question, or calling people pedophiles, which he does quite a bit. I don't think the normies know how much insanity is said via Twitter these days. The people he's reposting, these AI fake Republican accounts, these countless accounts of right-wing grifters and Russian-paid shills, like these media companies. When he's like retweeting them, they are getting paid more.
Yeah.
Like there is a whole digital economy of propaganda right now, both religious, political, culture. Like these people are truly, like, in our lifetime, it has never been this degree of bad.
Now, you could have convinced me that there was a back channel of money flowing to, post and support people that are posting this kind of shit. But the fact that it's out in the open and public, that like,
yeah, and it was celebrated.
That's crazy. That's crazy that I didn't. So I've never actually had like a Twitter and used Twitter.
Yeah.
So I didn't know that, but that's crazy that that's not more talked about.
Yeah, like when Jordan Pepperoni, he said something this week that was like super I forget what I mean, it's pretty constant, but like if you're Eric Kahn and you get on, actually I haven't checked his Twitter in a while, but you get on and you say like all feminists are Marxist, that they don't think the patriarchy is wrong, they just want to replace it at the top, right?
Yeah.
And that tweet gets seen like 1,000 times, and then a Musk account bot reposts it. You're getting paid, right? Like you're encouraged to do that. If you want to share fake news stories about Russia, Ukraine, and you're the first person to get a fake document, you're making money off that. Like this is like what the internet has turned into. Most of these accounts are bots. Like I would reckon it is over 50% of all Twitter accounts right now. Facebook, like when Zuckerberg did this, he put Dana White, the UFC owner, who smacked his wife publicly like 6 months ago, in charge of their board of like freedom of speech issues, and changed his whole look and went on Rogan and said he's with the Trump admin, basically, that whole thing. 2 weeks before that, in a book, Trump was quoted saying people like Zuckerberg, if they don't change how they control information or whatever, should face lifetimes in prison. Like he's threatening the media constantly and telling people like Zuck that under his rule, they could go to prison for life. And 2 weeks later, Zuckerberg does a complete 180. And it's spineless and cowardly as it was for him to completely make this change of how, the Facebook empire would be controlled, moderated, what's okay, what's not, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
The president of the most powerful country in the world and the richest man in the entire world are pressuring you with the threat of lifetime in prison.
Yeah.
Like the amount of news agencies that are no longer allowed reporting on the White House, the lawsuits they're winning against pollsters or libel and all this shit. Like, we're approaching a very, very scary level of propaganda. Like, either way we would do this podcast, it's fun. We like fucking around, but
yeah,
there's a certain level of like, I feel like people more like us, whether it's more creatively inclined or introverted, like that combination of like artsy people, like don't do a ton of stuff like this. And the whole digital landscape has been just left for grifters, liars, and Republicans.
Yeah.
And that they are absolutely controlling every narrative and winning every conversation right now. And as like minimal as our like contribution is, right? I in general, even if it wasn't political or religious, whatever, I would encourage anyone to get their thoughts out more. And I think it's cool when people's thoughts or ideas, whatever it is, podcast art, whatever, is public. Like I have a cousin who writes, right? He was a English lit major musician, writes, taught English, but he's like a writer, poet kind of guy. And he's never like shared anything he's ever wrote, basically. And he's wrote his whole life. He's like, dude, I think it's cool you put everything online. I'm like, I think it's ridiculous you don't put everything online.
Yeah.
Like I've had followings or accounts that did okay at different points, but it's never been about any of that. I feel like it's good and cool for shit just to be out in the world. And I wish there are more of us opposed to these type of things than there are in favor of the evangelical church or the hardcore maggots, the Trump people, but they're more vocal, and there just aren't enough people, I think, expressing how fucked a lot of shit is.
Yeah.
And the Democratic Party fucking sucks, dude. They're pathetic. Fuck Democrats,
so fucking
dude.
sad.
Jesus. The people are aroused. Did you see that one?
No.
Chuck Schumer, like, we're
God.
very aroused that, everyone's so aroused at all these corrupt things Trump. And then the other, I don't curse much, but I just want to say, fuck Trump. we all need to fuck Trump. It's so funny though. But we have I don't know where I'm going. I'm just frustrated in it.
Yeah.
We're supposed to be angry and upset because this place fucking sucks, dude.
Yeah.
Fuck that shit.
It's huge disappointment.
Big.
I think all the time of like the straight up lie that we were told in like social studies when we were kids of like, America's the land of the free and it's all equal, and the reason it is because it is so that we take care of each other and it's the best place in the world and it's all equal and everyone has rights, and you're like, oh, actually a lot of people only got rights like 30 years ago. It's like
3/5 of rights. Yeah.
So fucking embarrassing.
I don't know how to conclude this. I feel
I think we've said enough.
Frustrated.
Yeah,
I think some of this I was thinking about saying I think some of this will wear off the more removed from politics we get, but it's all tied in, right? Like it's all American culture. Like after 9/11, the country was so united and people like yearn for America to all be on the same page again like that. And it's like, I don't know if you guys remember, we're all on the same page about killing people.
Yeah.
Killing terrorists and going to war and shit. Like this was not good thinking then either. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know where to go. Like, I think the answer is we just keep doing our own thing. Like, I've been trying to.
That's
more
really
time into art, but
it's the best that we can do, on a regular basis.
Because I want to cover whatever the fuck topics we want, and I
Right.
don't. I was a little worried about overcooking it on politics stuff, but at the same time, it's just like, what the fuck is more important to talk about? Like, this shit may
It's the
very
thing
well be
that
once in a
weighs-
lifetime, like, witness of an empire's collapse, of like terrible abuses of power, of like what is freedom, what is truth. And I think as much as we're interested in those things, I think we should pursue it. But I also think, like, fuck it, we're just gonna do whatever the fuck we want, and wherever it goes, it goes.
Yeah. It's a sad place to be in, with a lot of terrible people. And I don't, if it's the thing that's most at the top of our mind, I don't see any reason why not to talk about it.
Why do they hate feminists so much? I never got it.
It's I don't think he ever really said. He said, well, besides the fact that he sees himself upon a pillar of power, and he does not want to be deposed by that pillar.
It reminds.
And I think deep inside he believes that he can be deposed from that pillar, so he has to say bad things about the person that he believes is coming for his throne.
It reminds me of like a grade school boys that make fun of girls.
Yeah.
Or like, you're gross. Yeah,
Yeah,
like
you're icky, they got cooties. Yeah. It gives a lot of that energy.
Super that energy.
It's sad.
I feel like if I was a woman, I would be like super feministy, but not being a woman. Feminist stuff's like, a lot of the people that embrace it can be kind of cringe, but the reality is, like, they shouldn't have to be cringe, because this stuff shouldn't be in question. Of like,
I think if you get extremist about almost anything, it becomes cringe.
But it's like, there shouldn't be a need for them to be so adamant about like power structures or gender roles or all that shit. Right. And the only reason they've been kind of made to be that way, in a sense, is because the world has like historically treated women so poorly, and people like Eric continue to do just that. And it's
to do it and to justify it, and to push that opinion to other people so that they will continue to justify it as well.
I like women. I just don't understand guys that are like, oh, fucking women are stupid and weak. And
yeah, it's like, what is your experience? I just don't. What happened to you?
Like, how
makes you feel this way?
Did you see the Doge hacker kid that got fired for the anti-Indian stuff?
No.
So the Doge team of hackers.
Yeah.
They're all like kids. One of them, his accounts.
Oh yeah, big balls.
I think so. He was saying stuff like, fuck Indians, they shouldn't be allowed to give birth.
Jesus.
Like shit like that. And
talking about the vice president's wife like that.
Well, Vance is saying, hey, he got fired, and then Vance puts out like tweets like, we should hire him back. What you do outside of work isn't, and I've made that argument before.
Yeah.
And I would stand by that, I think. But obviously they're doing illegal acts to begin with. Yeah. And there are like morality issues at play when you're a federal employee, which he would be if he was legally in that position, which he is not.
Exactly.
And also, how do you think Vance's wife, an Indian woman, feels about this? It's just like, so it's like such absurdity on so many levels, where the president and vice president are openly defending outright racism towards Indian people. This Kekamis Maximus thing I kind of drip introduced or whatever a couple weeks back, we're going to do at some point soon, because they're like openly joking about mutilating Indian people, like on a lot of like prominent discussion boards and political people's Twitter. It's like really shocking. That's where the conversation has gone to. And I feel like the red pill movement kind of lost a little bit of its steam recently, but we're going to see these things. I feel like they've been on the broach of mainstream for a long time. And I think that's where we're headed with these type of conversations very soon, where it's not just going to be like people like us talking about it on the internet or fighting against whatever. These are going to be like real things we hear our parents talk about, or like, you know what I mean by that?
Yeah,
like where they're mainstream enough. They're in, these conversations are heard in people's living rooms now. And it's just very surreal. Like we're going to have to relitigate Nazism. I mean, that's already what's happening, but
it's just the Roman salute, guys. You know, Stephen, I think the good news is on the horizon. All of this is going to be fixed when we invade and take over. What's the list now? Is Greenland and
red,
Canada
white, and
Gaza. That's right. Red, white, and blue land. Oh boy, can't fucking wait.
Man,
thanks again for listening, everybody.
Fuck it, dude. We're spinning out, dude. We're crashed out, bro.
Thank you to Approaching Human.
Sugar kick, bro. We're off, bro.
You're crashing hard. Thank you to Approaching Human for the use of his music. You can find his work on SoundCloud at Approaching-Human.
Thanks, John.
Make sure to check out the show page at Trashcast on Instagram for news and art from the show. Check out Facebook for the memes.
For the memes, if you're super, you can check out my trashy art on Instagram at Sky6, SKYZICX. Finishing something new up soon. And big stuff on the way. Got Kekamis Maximus, the White House Faith Office, and a big manifesto. A lot of big, wild, crazy stuff. So stick around. Appreciate you, Trash Cats. For real. You guys are cool.
That's going to be all for us today. Stay classy, eat trashy.
Go fast, eat trash.